Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends, as this video is brought to you by drroto.com.
Oh, good morning, my friends. It is the final major of the year. We got the Open Championship, sir. And I know I'm excited. Are you excited?
Of course I'm excited. We're going to have world-class golf on display while we can sip coffee in the morning. We don't have to wait all day for coverage to start like last week where even though they were over there, you know, we couldn't really watch it until the afternoon. It was kind of dumb. But yeah, I'm very excited, sir.
I got a DK lock at 1:35 a.m. Eastern showing on DraftKings right now. That's brutal.
That is accurate. That's why it's important to keep a last-minute eye before you go to bed tonight on the weather. See if there are any late withdrawals. Unlikely, but somebody could, you know, slip in the shower or whatever before their tee time and not be able to make it. So always important, but yes, very excited.
Hey, how about Bobby Mack last week? I believe on this show, we made comment of, Bobby Mack the 2 weeks prior to that. And I said, is this a Bobby Mack flop lag week? And you said, yeah, I think it's going to be. And not only was it flop lag, he took home the trophy, my friend.
He did. There was a bit of a controversial drop there on the par 5 15th hole, I believe it was. Somehow found a sprinkler head amongst some just giant tall heather. His ball was buried. He wouldn't have been able to advance it any more than a couple, 150 yards maybe from that stuff. But instead, got a nice drop and was able to knock it up to about 8 feet and made eagle. Ended up winning by 1. But kudos to him. I got a lot of Scottish blood in me, so I was happy to see the hometown boy do it. In a working class kid, grow up at the course where his dad was the greenskeeper, hometown boy, great story for all. He's probably still drunk right now, and good for him. Good for him. His focus maybe shouldn't be on golf for at least 24 hours after that kind of victory.
That's true. Well, sorry for the delay on getting us going here, Adam. Turns out Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now, requires a premium subscription to go live.
Oh, well, I guess
my account is not premium, so it was like, hey, Johnny Danger, you're not cool enough to go live anymore. So
there's
that.
We all knew that. Yeah, just to recap a little bit, Adam Scott also contended. We kind of talked about him last week, how his game was trending, how he's a great player over in Scotland in this part of the world. It could be another week for him. He's at 6,700. So a lot of these guys are very mispriced relative to their recent form because pricing came out before the event finalized in Scotland. So those results were not factored in.
Hey, Adam Scott was in my lineup in the league, my friend, and probably the only reason why I didn't take last place this week. So for a hot minute when he was tied for first or jumped up to, he was first alone for a very brief minute. I went from like 14th in our tournament to 5th. But he couldn't hold on to that solo first.
Yeah. One more thing to keep an eye on a little bit. Story of the week. Ludwig held a 54-hole lead, played very well, and then had one of his worst rounds as a professional in the final round. So maybe he's got some things to learn to be a closer.
Maybe. Does that get in your head coming into a major when you just bomb the final round before the week starts?
That's hard to say. I mean, I think crapping the bed figuratively is never a good thing in the final round of a tournament where you're desperate to win, but there could be a little bit of scar tissue there built up. But he's so young. This is like his first round of playing majors. Truly, it's his first time playing the Open. It was his first Masters where he finished second. So I don't think it's going to have a lingering effect on him long term. But yeah, carrying over from 1 week to the next, you're trying to go out there and sort of refine it before the tournament starts.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me about the course. Tell me what we're doing. What are we looking for? And then we'll get into the players.
Oh, baby, danger. We are at Royal Troon. It's just under 7,400 yards. Got to pull out a little Scottish accent there. But this has played host to a couple of epic duels with Nicklaus and Watson running away with the tournament, separating themselves with nobody else having a chance to win back in 77, I believe it was. Stenson and Mickelson, dude. Stenson beat Mickelson by 3 shots here in 2016. Mickelson beat third place by 11. 11. It was 2017 and 6 under were the top 3. Pretty incredible. So That was partially due to a wave advantage. We've also seen Todd Hamilton win a major here. Do you know who Todd Hamilton is? Yeah, I don't think so.
Sounds like a NASCAR driver.
Yeah, he probably should have been. I don't know why I said that, but yes, it has played host to a variety of different types of victors. But looking at the way the course has been lengthened, the way some of the angles have changed, the greens, it does weigh a little more heavily on your short game around the greens because the greens are tiny. A lot of times they're a little bit narrower in the front and then widening out as you go back. So these front pins will be tough to get at. It features one of the greatest holes in golf, period, as the postage stamp is 123-yard par 3, shortest in the Open Rota. It is a brilliant little golf hole. Players, even with a little wedge in their hand, are going to struggle. And you'll see some doubles and probably even some triples on that hole. Overall, it's going to require very good tee shots, very accurate tee shots, because you want to be playing from the fairway. He was very robotic in his victory, Stenson was, back in 2016, but that guy is just fairway green. And a lot of those par fours are going to require you to lay up short of a burn or short of big treacherous pot bunkers. Shouldn't say big, but treacherous pot bunkers that are truly a pitch out sideways type situation. So it's not necessarily lending itself to the bomberiest of bombers, if that makes sense. But you do want to have some distance to take advantage of these par fives. There are 3 of those. One of them is over 600 yards at 626, and a couple right about 500. You're going to see, because of those layups we talked about, a lot of shots struck from between 150 and 225. So I've been weighing that into my model. But overall, going to be a fantastic week in Scotland. It is the birthplace of golf, as we've mentioned, and this is a true links test. Nothing tricky about it. If the weather doesn't end up being windy and nasty, it could very well end up being a 15-plus under winner at this event. But I'm hoping for some wind. I want to see the carnage in this event, and really the players just be tested to the greatest degree possible.
Now, see, I want the lowest scoring possible because we've got a 1.5x multiplier in our competition, and that is really good when the scores are low.
Yeah, I think you're probably going to get it. We talked about last week being kind of in the upper teens. That's exactly where it finished up at 18 under for Bobby Mack, being the winning score, and a lot of guys pretty close behind him there. But you may get your wish. The forecast looks very nice, calm, sunny over the weekend. Thursday is going to be a tough day, but beyond that, I think we're going to have some pretty decent scores.
I need like a 580, 590 winning DK score, and I need second place to be like 450, and then I think I could climb that leaderboard.
Well, I think with that being the case, it's the last major of the year. People are looking to make a lot of money. Let's give it a little more of a tournament feel as far as our conversation today and the guys that we suggest.
All right, rock and roll, buddy.
Feel.
All right, let's get into it. All right, we got a few players in the 10K and above. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 this time around. Obviously, we got Scotty Scheffler up front, 21% ownership. But I'm looking at our friends over at DFS Hero. If you haven't checked them out, please go to dfshero.com, where we're talking about their AI-powered golf simulator. Is showing Scotty up front with a winning score projected around the mid-90s. We got ownership in the 20s, but we got him placed in their optimal lineups at 32%. So this is another Christian McCaffrey thing, right? He's way up there in ownership, but he's also way far and above the number one optimal play as well. Is this a lock for you? Do you have to just play Scotty?
No, I wouldn't say it's a lock. I think, to me, especially with the incredibly high level golf that Rory is playing, I think you've got 2 very similar expectations for their outcomes, and Rory is $1,400 less expensive. So because of that factor, I do think it's hard to call it a lock. That being said, Scotty is Scotty. He's having an epic season. I think he's going to be a little bit more motivated than usual, even to go out and prove to everyone this is a historic season. He had a rough U.S. Open. He's been here preparing. He hasn't played an event in several weeks since the Travelers. So, yeah, Scotty's going to come in primed and ready, man. I wouldn't be surprised to see him win by a few shots this week. But, again, I can say the same thing about Rory. So I think up top, to me, it starts with those 2, kind of starts and ends with those 2. You've got some great players up here, but Ludwig hasn't proven it yet. Xander.
But correct me if I'm wrong, though. The chalk horse has had a very poor record for quite a while at the Open.
The chalk horse?
Yeah, like number one ownership projected, number one projected scoring player, the number one seed, if you will, has not won this tournament in a while.
No, definitely hasn't won in a while. And what I like about this event is it sort of gives the guys who are a little bit under the radar but still incredibly solid players a chance to come out and shine, much like Brian Harman did last year. You know, he's not the guy that you're going to look at and say that's the model of what the PGA Tour player looks like. He's the prototype, but he's an incredibly skilled player, and that week everything clicked, so including his putting especially. So I think you're going to see some guys like that, just solid players, top 20 in the world type players that really contend this week, and we'll get to who a couple of those guys are. But for me personally, it's going to start with Rory because of the factors we talked about. But man, I can't fault you for playing Scotty. He's having an incredible season. This could be kind of the exclamation mark on it.
So we have our two different models we're looking at today from DFS Hero and also Data Golf. Do things a little different. DFS Hero tries to find, the most optimal lineups and how often the players fit into the optimal lineups. Data Golf does a value meter. A lot of times the value meters you see, the top end players, the 9K and above, tend to kind of be flat on the value meter because they're expensive. They're expected to score well. But this one has the value meter just rocking the guys at the top. They just love the guys at the top this week. Just like all the 9K, all the 10K guys, outside of Bryson for some weird reason. Maybe you can shed some light on that.
Yeah, with Bryson, it's probably more so due to the accuracy off the tee. But I don't know. With Bryson, he's got an okay short game, but he's not the short game player that a few of these guys up top are as well. But this course really, I think, going back to your question, it rewards the guys who just hit a better shot than field average over and over and over again. And that kind of describes Scotty and Rory. Rory off the tee is going to really separate himself this week. He's going to be able to carry some of these pot bunkers that other players cannot. So with his sort of newfound wedge prowess in that, 120 and under range where he used to struggle a bit, I think Rory could also separate himself in this field. But yeah, that's kind of why I think the course really, like you saw Stenson and Mickelson run away from it. When you're just a little better than everybody in the field at every tee shot, every approach shot, it just sort of really allows you a chance to separate. Normally, when it's a bomb and gouge type week like we have on the PGA Tour, it's harder for the elite players to separate themselves.
For sure. All right, fair enough. The only one kind of down in projections in the 10K range for scoring is Jon Rahm. Did my simulations just not like him, or is it a reason why we should be fading him?
He just hasn't been playing great golf. I mean, this could go down as just a total gap year in Rahm's career. First year on LIV, game has looked shaky. There's just no reason to think, other than just the fact that he wants to come out and prove that, he's still got it. There's no reason to think, he is worthy of putting in your lineups or betting on this week, despite the fact that, he is still a world-class player, just hasn't been showing it this season. I'm not touching him.
Not touching them, he says. Not happening. All right, well, let's move on down to the 9K range. Talk about immaculate ball striking here. We've got a couple of guys I usually like quite a bit in my DFS lineups, in Collin Morikawa and Ty Hatton. Fleetwood, man, I tell you, we talked about him. You said this is a good week for Fleetwood, and he scored pretty good, and I faded him because I said, nope, can't do it the last time. And then every time I play him, he fades out. Every time I fade him, he plays up. So talk to me about Collin. Talk to me about Hatton, and tell me, am I fading or playing Tommy Fleetwood?
Yeah, I'm hoping you don't play Fleetwood this week. I do think it's time that he contends again in a major. He kind of backdoor top 3 at the Masters this year. He's been just kind of lingering, not putting together 4 great rounds. Last week it was his putting. He lost almost a stroke on the greens per round to the field, but was solid otherwise. So Fleetwood's a guy that I'm definitely interested in. I would take Hatton over Fleetwood straight up though, and he's right there, $200 more. He's He's finally seemingly able to calm his temper down in majors, and in particular, he had three very good rounds at Pinehurst. Blew up on Sunday for a 77. Finished T9 at Augusta. So Hatton is a guy that I like. If the ownership starts getting closer to 20, though, I'll just pivot because
I love this. So we've been playing with the new tools at DFS Hero, partners over at drroto.com, and the vast difference between Data Golf projections and them in ownership is crazy on Hatton. So Data Golf's got him closer to 15, 16. DFS Hero's got him at 8.5. 8.5 is pretty attractive.
8.5 would be very attractive on Hatton. I don't think we're going to get that. It'll probably fall somewhere in between. A lot of the touts have been talking about him, writing him up, what have you. So
the optimal lineup on DFS Hero hates him. They've got him only in 4% of optimal lineups, which is very, very low.
That is low. That's not necessarily a reason that I'll fade him completely, but interesting nugget there. Morikawa is he's playing incredibly solid, consistent golf. Being that you really want to be playing your approach shots from the fairway here, that is absolutely imperative this week, being that long hitters are going to be clubbing down to lay up short of some of these burns and pop bunkers. Morikawa was a perfect fit for this week. If it doesn't blow, especially, he doesn't necessarily love playing in wind, but God, if it doesn't blow, he's right there. He's played so well in the majors. T4 at the PGA, T3 at the Masters, was right there with the leaders until he dunked it on 11. And then followed it up with a T14 at the U.S. Open. He's as safe a bet as there is from any player not named Scotty or Rory. So no reason to talk you off of Colin Morikawa. Again, we're talking about GPPs here, though. So let's talk about your boy Cantlay, Danger. You got any love for him?
I want to bring him up,
given that you got to make up some ground.
Well, he's not been popular in our contests. I don't know why, but he tends to be very low owned in our contests. And the 1 week I was on him and then couldn't pull the trigger, he actually came out and had an amazing week. But I don't know, man. I like him a lot. The simulations are kind of iffy on him. Let me see. I was just looking at him. 7% ownership over at DFS Hero. We've got him at 10% over at Data Golf, so probably come in somewhere in between those numbers. Not bad for a guy with a pedigree of big spotlight scoring.
Yeah, not bad at all. The only thing I would say is he doesn't have that pedigree in majors just yet. He played well at the U.S. Open recently. Maybe he's turned a corner, but overall history would kind of suggest otherwise. Outside of that particular finish, Danger, he hadn't had a top 10 since the 2023 PGA not that long ago. He had an 8th place at the Open Championship, and that's it until you go back to like 2019. So he's had kind of a mediocre to very poor stretch at the majors. He's made most of the cuts, but still just very disappointing by his standards.
He was on my original list that I sent you, but after looking at a few of these simulations and projections, I think I'm more apt to go up to Hatton from his price point.
Yeah, and I wouldn't blame you if you go up to Hatton. That means I'm not playing him because I got to catch you this week in our contest. But let's keep it rolling because we're trying.
Are you one behind me, two behind me? Where are you at? You're real close.
Say it again.
I said you're like what, one spot behind me?
Yeah, right 1 or 2, but we're all bunched in there within like 50 points of each other.
We are right there. All right, let's keep it going. The 8K range here, I tend to kind of fade this a lot because I like to try to squeeze 2 top guys in. So I haven't looked heavily into this. Simulations on both sites, all 3 actually. Let's see. Pay Dirt DFS just came up. I'll be looking at that momentarily. But simulations are liking Tom Kim again. They're also liking Hideki here, and I feel like the Hideki is more like the steady scoring, like not necessarily going to win, but he'll make the cut, he'll score some points. What do you feel about this range? Because it's really not stepping out for me, except for Tom Kim and Hideki.
I love Tony Finau. He's got a very good Open Championship track record. We haven't really talked too much about this, but you really need to shape iron shots into the greens and drives in both directions. And Finau can do that as well as most anybody out there. So he's also been playing some phenomenal golf, and it seems like he can putt now. if Finau can putt, yeah, he's got the game that can really separate himself from most of the guys in these majors. He's just got to play kind of his average game tee to green. And if he putts better than field average, he will top 10. He will absolutely top 10. So despite the fact that I see him projected almost 15%, love Finau. Tom Kim too. His game has been trending. It's more of an accuracy course off the tee than it is for the Bombers. So that plays right into his hands. Hideki, God, he just burned us last week, man. He just burned us. It still hurts a little bit.
It hurt a little bit.
It still hurts.
It did.
I
don't know, man. This is going to be a range that I'm going to be out on most likely because I'm going to play two guys in the top, and this is going to be difficult to get somebody in here. So,
if you're playing two up top, it does make it difficult. There's so much value this week, though. We're going to talk about the 7K range in a second. It's small as far as numbers go. You can poke holes in a lot of the guys there. There's like 4 or 5 guys in the 6K range I would play right there with most of the guys in the 7K range. So there is value if you want to kind of have the studs, an 8K guy, and then the absolute values down below. That's not a bad strategy this week. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I love Shane Lowry too. I think Lowry's primed to truly contend in another major, at least at some point in the next half dozen or so. And I think this could very well be it. T9 at the Travelers. Approach play was on fire. He's always a great driver of the golf ball and can also work it both ways, like we just mentioned. Is going to be necessary this week. So, yeah, he's also a guy I have my eye on this week, Shane Lowry.
Absolutely love it. All right, let's get into the 7K range here. We've got last week's championship winner, Bobby Mack, right there at 77. It's interesting. I'm looking at 3 different ownership projections for him. I've got 2 of them right around 8% and 1 of them around 16%. If he comes under owned, do you like his recent form, or is he still, partying and this is going to be hard to come back around? But 7,700, his projections actually look good point wise. His leverage value looks pretty good if that ownership doesn't spike too high. He's looking good in the simulations.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the partying. I can speak from experience. The Scotsmen can handle their booze and bounce back pretty well, but he does. I just think it's hard to rise to the occasion. He has said he wants to win that event as much as any other. He finally climbed that mountain, came back from finishing second last year and did it. So I know he's been celebrating the mental toll that it takes to peak for an event like that, being right there in the mix till the very end, and then trying to come back and prepare for and contend in another major. I don't know. I don't see him for those reasons contending this week. So not my guy. I do have him at 9%. I mean, Data Golf you mentioned, but the big guys here as far as popularity will definitely be Aaron Rai, Corey Connors. Models love them. They're both incredible tee to green. So with good reason, they're going to be overly popular because they're just stupid values. A lot like some of the guys we'll talk about in the 6K range. But do we have any love for Alex Noren? He was like a model darling there for a long time and then fell off for a few weeks, went and saw his coach, Peter Hansen, back in Sweden, and kind of came out and did some good things last week.
Yeah, and, Data Golf's got him kind of in the middle of the mix in this price range. Let's see. DFS Hero isn't even on the front page here, so they don't care for him much. Let's spin over here.
I could see him being a really good pivot play this week.
All right. Yeah. So pivot plays are kind of Paydirt DFS's bread and butter. That's really their ranking is basically pivot thinking. And they do enjoy Alex Noren at 72.
Yeah, I think he's a good value. He gives you some good top 10 upside. Is his career any worse than Brian Harman's before Harman won? He's probably a notch below that, but nobody would be shocked if he comes out and contends for the title this week. So,
I mean, I have a hard time. He's the same price as Sahith Theegala. I'm having a hard time, not clicking one name up for the same price. So maybe the field will be with me on that with ownership too. I hear that. I like Aaron Rai. His form has been amazing, right? The highest projected scoring on this particular simulation I ran in this range is a name we haven't really talked about much this year in Joaquin Niemann.
Yeah, Neiman's a guy that was very buzzed about coming into the Masters as potentially playing some of the best golf in the world, having won a couple times on LIV coming into it. But I don't know. I am not super high on him just because he hasn't really done it in these major championships. So until you kind of prove to me that you're a major contender and you can have the patience and the expertise to navigate your way around, I'm not doing it. He has never finished better than T53 in the Open Championship, and that's in 4 tries. It's not just a couple attempts. So no, Neiman's not my guy. I know the models might like him, but
we haven't talked about him much, so just out of curiosity.
Understand
it. Any love for Bhatia this week at 7 flat?
Bhatia is sort of similarly, he's a guy I'll be targeting in future majors. The fit is there a little bit with the accuracy, but because he doesn't have any Open Championship experience, I am going to be fading him myself. Outside of Noren, we got Sepp Straka down here, who was a darling of the summertime for a while there, late spring, early summer, and he did finish second last year at the Open Championship. So I don't know, man. Short game isn't great, but do we like him as a possible pivot from these super high owned dudes?
I mean,
what does Pay Dirt have to say about it? I know you don't have your own opinion.
Well, I mean, I got him at 10% owned. I mean, 7 here, 10% here. Pay Dirt is mediocre on him. Me. All right, let's move along. We got to get on with the show. All right, how about in the 6,000 range? A few names that just shock me that are at 6,000. Sungjae, Siwoo Kim, Adam Scott, like Benny An. I mean, 6K. Come on.
It doesn't make any sense, especially when you look at Sungjae Im's form, even previous to last week where he finished T4. Obviously, another very solid performance. It doesn't make any sense. He's $6,900 like that. There are no free squares in golf. You still got to go out there and play. But
I mean, looking at these guys priced under people like Willie Z and Dustin Johnson. What's up, man? Come on.
Oh, dude. Yeah. DJ's got no shot. I don't understand why he's even there. It's funny that we didn't even mention Justin Thomas at 7,400. It's just like, yeah, nice first round last week, and then you poop yourself. But
oh man, he's gonna be hitting out of a lot of rough.
Yes, no doubt about that. He's gonna take some, those shots where you see like a giant just mound of grass on the club head as it comes through.
Yeah,
those are my favorites.
No good. But tell me why I can't. I mean, I have to play Sungjae, right? I mean, we're only in the 19-person league. Even if he's 30% owned, that's 6,900, man. That frees up so much salary for a guy with championship pedigree.
I think you, in the position you're in, already in the money or currently in the money, you probably should play Sungjae. If I'm chasing, I'm looking for a guy with upside down here. Maybe a guy like Mr. Adam Scott. Siwoo, I don't know about him in links conditions. We haven't seen it yet, but yeah, I would probably go more like Adam Scott there.
I mean, look at the names down here who had some really good spots this year with Russell Henley. I mean, there's just some good names, so much value. Low 6,000s. You got Hoagie, you got Poston, you got all these people who have had some good runs this year. We're gonna have to make some sense out of the 6K range, Adam.
There are decisions to be made. Louis got to be mentioned too. Louis got great major championship and Open Championship history, and his game's been trending. Finished second just a couple weeks ago, I believe. So, and that's LIV, but still, it's a second place finish. You got to golf your ball to make that happen. But yeah, there are some decisions to be made here. You see a guy like Victor Perez, who I saw was in your initial lineup there.
That was just to trigger you. I don't know if he'll actually stay there, but it's a good price. It's a good price.
Didn't trigger me. Victor at 6,200. I mean, granted, we talk about high-owned guys under 7K or just kind of an automatic stay away.
Yeah.
Didn't intend to rhyme that, but it worked. But yeah, he did show last week that his off the tee game is sustaining. He's gained about 3/4 of a shot per round in his last 8 rounds total. Approach game was there. Putting was very good. Only lost strokes around the greens, where if that was like average, he's right there in the top 5. So top 10 for him there. He also had a third and a T12 in his 4th and 5th starts ago, respectively. So you kind of got to respect that dude's name down here at the low 6K range. He's shown in the past he can contend at majors with a top 10 just last season at the PGA. So Victor Perez, you said you might want to trigger me, but you might just goat me into playing him this week. That could be the nail in my coffin in our league, or it could me back.
How about a couple of names that I'm really not familiar with in the 6K range that are simulation darlings in Ewan Ferguson and Jordan L. Smith. Both of them pop up in this model. I don't know who they are. Enlighten me.
Well, Jordan Smith is a known very good links player. I actually played him last week, and he disappointed mightily. He had a couple good finishes coming in, though, or the finish before he finished second. But very good ball striker, not a good putter. But Jordan Smith, good links player, hits it pretty long. And then Ewan Ferguson is a Scotsman. He is trending. Didn't play very well last week. I watched some of him playing with, I can't remember the featured group, but I watched a good bit of him before the real coverage came on. Those aren't the guys I'm looking at here in the mid sixes, though. Tom McKibben is a Northern Irishman, plays at the same course that Rory did growing up. Had a rough week
last week.
What's that?
Listen, man, he was the #1 pivot leverage play last week.
Yeah,
according to this simulation, and he is again this week. 2 weeks in a row, back to back.
Really,
leverage pivot play on Pater DFS. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean he's got the tee to green game for sure. It's going to be a matter of can he, stay mentally in it when a couple mistakes inevitably happen, when he ends up in some long rough or he gets a crappy bounce after a good shot. He was great off the tee last week. He did gain over a stroke per round in those first 2 rounds, even though he missed the cut. His approach play let him down, but usually his approach play is very good. Coming into last week, he had 4 top 10s in his previous 6 events on the DP World Tour. He bombs the ball, won't need to hit driver on these par 4s, has the length to hit the par 5s and 2. Very good iron player. There's a good chance he's on the Ryder Cup team next year, which is saying something because Europe's got quite a few studs. I think he's coming. He'll probably be a guy you see on the PGA Tour before long.
Dig it. All right. I am short on time, sir. I have technically 2 minutes. So let's wrap up this range. Anybody else you want to touch on the 6 before we look for any kind of deep value in the 5K range?
6K range. No, I mean, we'll leave it where we got it. We touched on a few guys already that are worthy of consideration. McKibben's my guy there in the mid sixes.
Dig it. All right. Well, you're going to be pleased to hear this. Somebody that you tout on a regular basis as a value play, and also sitting right at the top of the field at 5,900 in the 5K range. All 3 simulations point to Ben Griffin being a pretty decent play this week.
Gryffindor. Yeah. He looks like he's going to be the highest owned, so that is probably a stay away in tournaments for me. We're trying to win this week, Danger.
Right? We're trying to win.
But solid bet to make the cut. Very solid bet to make the cut. Wrote him up last week. Had a pretty solid finish at the Scottish. Cannot fault you for going after him. Matthew Jordan is my darling again in the 5K range. Last week he came through for me. Didn't play great in the final round. Still finished T26. Has the ball striking prowess to go out there and contend this week. Outside of that, there is a glaring value down in the mid 5K ranges. Can you guess who it is, Danger?
A glaring value in the mids.
Glaring.
Well, I like Austin Eckroat. You know this. Let's see. What can I find?
Not a PGA Tour player. I'll give you that clue.
Say what?
It's not a PGA Tour regular. I'll give you that clue.
I don't know. This list is too long, and I don't have time to sort through it, sir.
It's all good. Matteo Manassero.
Okay. All right.
So he's at 5,400. He's had a bit of a resurgence. Crazy thing looking back. The dude's 31 years old. 15 years ago, he finished T13 at this event.
Mm-hmm.
Do the math on that. 16 years old, finished T13.
Wow.
I double checked that a couple times yesterday. Like, is that real? Oh, fuck, that's right. It started coming back to me. But yeah, definitely a great value. Approach play has been fire. Off the tee, decent. He's been gaining strokes a little bit the last few events, but Man, T15 last week, T10, T7 in his last 4 events as well, T47 at the BMW International. If you're looking for a guy to go stars and scrubs, he's got open experience too. So really, really love that value play there at 54.
I have to say, I'm looking at all 3 ownership projections, and Monasterio is projected as the highest owned 5K guy in all 3.
It's almost like everyone has access to the same like data and shit that we do that puts us on these guys. But, you know, right. I'm not mad about it. It's not going to get me off.
It's only 4%. Come on. It's not like, it's not massive.
Yeah. That's the thing with as many players as you have in the 6 and 7K ranges.
Yeah.
The ownership is so condensed in the 7K and up range that, down here, okay, a high owned guy at 4 or 5%, I can live with that, especially if you differentiate up top. So, yeah.
I like it. Do you have any bets that you've been thinking about, or have you not dug into that quite yet?
I really haven't dug into it outside of, looking at guys' Vegas odds as compared to their DraftKings prices. Have not looked at it much. I'll probably put together some top 10, top 20 parlays later, but I'll post them on Twitter.
Can I ask you a question? Are you familiar with the golf writer Eric Patterson?
I am.
He has placed his favorite long bet in an article he just dropped as Tom McKibben at 200 to 1.
There you go. There you go. Like, is the guy probably going to win? No, it's not likely. But he's got the long game for it. He really does. Like, outside of Scotty, Rory, some of these obviously elite guys, he's got a pretty incredible game. And I think this week, if it blows, his ball flight will be a factor. So, yeah, outside of that, I'm seeing some crazy numbers on Max Homa. Max, I got at 110 to 1 here on the DK app. I got McKibben at 150 on this particular app. Ryan Fox, very good links player, 160 to 1. I mean, give me a break there. Come on. Hoagie at 170 to 1, an off week last week, but T5 the week before that. 170 to 1 on Hoagie. He's a great iron player, accurate driver of the ball. Yeah, that's one that I can get behind there.
All right, I've made all the notes that I can make. I am late for my real job meeting now, so
Well, thanks for holding on late with me. We're not gonna do our tipsy picks and all that. Just know that Monasterio's my guy there. Phenom mid ranges, Rory up top. Let's.
Yep, and Victor Perez Renaissance, baby.
Maybe we'll see.
I really put him in there to trigger you. I'm not playing him. I can't do it. Can't do it. All right. Well, for Mr. Adam White, I am Johnny Danger on behalf of drroto.com and our wonderful model partners at DFS Hero, Pater DFS, and Data Golf. Gosh, we go through so much data just for our fans, Adam, just for the 4 of you that watch.
We do it for the fans. The fans are what's important. Hope you guys enjoy the beer and the mustache. And enjoy sipping coffee while we watch this Open Championship.
I will. I watch every week, and I definitely will be watching in the morning.
You might not miss a shot, buddy.
I might not miss a whole shot. All right, my friends, until we meet again, I'm not sure when that will be. We'll probably take next week off, but we'll be back. We'll see you. All right, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well